7:08. Sorry for the lateness, but we're going to call this meeting to order. We're going to review the minutes from the last meeting. Need a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes as presented.
I second it.
All right. Any questions, any comments, any changes? All right. Need a vote to accept the minutes as presented.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next, new business. The budget reviews continue. All right, town accountant is up first today.
Our town accountant is unable to make it tonight due to a family engagement, but he asked that I present his budget for him. It is included in your packet here. You'll see that there's a net reduction in the overall budget proposal by $200. A major increase comes in the town accountant purchase services line item from $30,000 to $35,000. That is Dan's salary. We contract technically with Scanlon and Associates, which is Dan's employer. That bump there is because Dan will no longer be with us at the close of the fiscal year. Due to his busy schedule with his new position as the business administrator for Tri-County Regional Vocational Technical High School. We are in the process of working with Central Mass Regional Planning Commission, who is doing a regional all-call for different communities in their catch area that are looking for a town accountant. And when that gets posted, I will let you know. The reduction comes from we had a different year last year with actuarial studies and things of that nature there. So that's what accounts there, and he put an explanation on the bottom as well. That's why we had a $5,500 drop in the OPEB actuarial study, was because it's only required every certain number of years.
Any questions, any comments?
Well, to get on the same horse that we've been on for a while, metrics, something that might say this is performing at this rate and it compares to other people.
I think those metrics will come as we work with Dan to define the scope of
Okay.
what the job is when we advertise for it. Dan's been with us for well over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So he knows the job like the back of his hand. So now that we have to actually figure out what Dan does on a day-to-day basis for us, because he does a ton, we'll get those for you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, I just wanted to say, in the past, his number's always been on anything we needed, and it's been great. So, as far as metrics up to now, it's been very good.
And I'm not looking to try and catch somebody in anything. I'm just looking to be able to find a way to be able to justify what we're doing. Again, I'd like not to be in a position to say you can't have that because we don't know what they're doing. If we have metrics to say they're doing very well, doing better than anybody else, then maybe they should be looking for additional. And those departments that don't would probably be the subject of cuts.
I think that probably every department wants more money.
Oh,
at this
and I
point,
understand that.
Unfortunately, but
No, the only reason I said that was because it's been very good up to
No,
now,
and
so.
I'm not.
Just so
again,
you knew, that's the only reason I said it.
New guy in
Bring it.
town, understand that.
We'll forgive you.
all right. Any other questions on the town accountant?
Just because we are talking about the town accountant, I did let him know our request to get all of the balances in the revolving accounts. He wasn't able to do that just because of his family situation this week. We will have it for next week, he said.
You understand? Yep.
Okay.
All right, moving on. Treasurer collector.
Me.
Me.
Okay, now I've lost it again. What did I do?
I brought copies with
And
additional
I tried to get
backup,
out of it.
so.
Okay, I did that, and then it said it's not
Yep.
connected
Take
again.
one down.
What did you say? I couldn't.
Just this little,
That
That
little
one?
triangle.
Yeah.
In case you didn't hear, Becky did bring extra backup material for her budget that's going around the table right now. Cover sheet.
And then what I did was hit here to get out of it. Obviously, that
Just to
was the
make it
wrong
look
thing
really
to
That'll
hit.
take you all the way up.
Yeah.
Once you get into it,
Thank you.
just the chart.
Non-elections, it's okay.
Oh, okay.
But once I get into it, then I'll ask if I
Yeah.
can have it. Sorry.
Okay?
You're up,
Yes.
Beck. Go
Yes.
ahead.
Carol,
take
take
one
one and
and
pass it
pass
along.
it
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm still at supper.
99 bottles of,
You got something to tell us? That's good.
Take one and pass one.
Did you take one?
I didn't.
oh, you two.
Jeez, it's like hanging out with Tommy.
Wow.
That was uncalled for.
Well, I agree with that
Yes.
100%.
I figured you would.
Uncalled for.
I was missing you last week-ish.
Not really, but
All right.
All right, so, the first section is my contracted salary for FY '21, with the additional salary for the certification. I am certified treasurer collector for the Mass state. The assistant treasurer salary, what I've proposed is to move that position to a 40-hour salaried position. Currently, it's 37 and a half hours, and built in a 2% COLA into that. The secretary, the treasurer's secretary line, we don't have that filled right now. So that monies that's there was basically a contingency plan in my head, where if something happens, because if something happens to myself or Lisa Sheeman, who's my assistant, the office is doomed. So we don't have backup right now, so that I wanted to leave that position in there so that you all knew that that's something that if one of us couldn't perform our duties to the way that we're doing them now, we would need additional funds there.
Is that taken out of the budget?
It's one of the ones we've talked about.
I would just say that I know there's been talk of the 2% COLA being eliminated for staff that are additional, administrative assistants and that type of stuff, and anybody who's not in the unions. And those are the people that keep this place running. And I'll just say that they don't have people fighting for them. So I just want to say that they're the ones that do the grunt work. A lot of the work that are behind the scenes, it's not fabulous stuff, and they're always seem to be forgotten. So I really want to fight for that 2% COLA for them. Whether you increase hours or not, they really should get, as you see later on, the health insurance is going up 3.7%. The least we can do is a 2% COLA for those secretary positions. So moving on, the purchase services line, that's a 20% increase. Most of that is for an additional fee that we had to pay this year for our lockbox services. The bank that we were using the lockbox service with, Fidelity, they outsourced it, and they're starting to charge us actually July 1. You may have noticed that in your bills that we've changed the address to a Boston address. They forced us over to another company that does the service,
how much
and
is
it's $3,000.
A year?
Yeah. So, well, $250 a month, so.
Is it not one of the local banks that would support the town more than one of the larger banks, or?
Well, we do have all our departmental turnovers. We have an account with Cornerstone Bank, and then we also have the cash deposits on a daily basis go to GFA. So we do the local banks. Fidelity actually is over in Paxton, and we have a in-house scanner, so we don't actually go to the bank with those tax deposits. We scan them.
Yeah.
And the lockbox service is you mail it to Boston. They actually take, as long as the coupon is there and the check is there, they match them up, they scan it all, and we just get a file that we upload directly into our system. So it saves on processing time, and that's why it works to only have 2 people in our office, because it really saves on
Yeah, but just
time.
one of the local banks wouldn't do that for us. I mean, if Fidelity it's local to a point, but it still seems to be like a larger bank.
Yeah, well, they're not doing it anymore.
Right,
Fidelity, yeah, so they outsourced it. I actually did get, when they told me they were gonna start charging, I got a quote from a couple other banks. Century Bank, which is the biggest one besides this Lighthouse Services, is who's doing it now for the $3,000 a month. I'm sorry, $3,000 a year.
Like a month. What would
Century Bank, their quote came back at like $4,000 or close to $5,000 for the year for the capacity that we had used. So none of the
Okay.
other services could touch the $3,000 a year,
I'll
so.
give you a card I have in my wallet for another bank.
What's that?
I'll give you a card of another contact at another bank. Just call them and see, because that seems kind of steep. We're not doing, it's busy at certain points in the year, but it's
Right.
not nonstop like that. It's, yes, at this time of year, you're gonna be very busy because you've got all these things coming in, but then you've got a period where there's nothing, and then
Right.
it builds up again.
Well, the quote from Century actually we gave them the number of
Mhm.
items that are going through the lockbox. Doesn't matter whether it's heavy or slow
Right.
or
The
whatever.
service.
It's like, and they based that
Something when it's
$4,000
scanned
on
to pay.
the,
You know, like Bank of America, you did it for
usage,
deposit.
or how many.
We're committed to
yeah.
the
Local ones don't know.
What's that?
That's
We're
the
committed to
problem.
the bank
You
now.
might have
To
Yeah,
this
well,
bank.
You might
we
know.
did go out, I mean, I
That
did
might
call a
do
bunch
something
of other
like that.
banks, and actually, one of the other banks, I can't think of his, it was
The way
Newburyport,
that
because
area's
somebody,
growing.
you know, I looked on my Mass Treasurer Collectors
Well, especially with
group,
quarantine,
and
you better be on
Newburyport
board.
Bank was one of them that did offer the service. The service was through Lighthouse Services,
Same thing.
which is the same company that does the lockbox.
Sure.
So they're all kind of, they'll offer the service, the bank will, but they basically outsource it to Lighthouse Services, which
Okay.
is what we're using, so,
It's saving a lot of time in processing regardless.
yeah. yeah.
So, I just, quick question, out of that 21,586, the lockbox services, you said $3,000 for the year?
Yes.
Okay.
So the 18,000
then-
is,
Yeah, if you look actually at the next page, it gives you the breakdown of the 21,586.
You know, what you do.
So that has Vadar support, our software support, our bonds for the treasurer collectors and assistant payroll service. I did increase that based on the increase in the costs that you saw from the reserve fund transfer that we're requesting. Everything else is flat.
So just a point of reference in formatting, I like the idea that you're going from 21 backwards instead of going backwards all the way up to 21. Makes it
That's
easier.
the way it works in my head too.
'Cause she's certified now, that's why.
What's that?
You're certified now, right? So-
Yeah, exactly. And I did increase the supplies line by $200. Basically, that's for our toner. We've got a new printer and the toner cost increased. And other charges and expenses, it's just the same. Any questions on the treasurer's side? Treasurer collector's line, 145. All right. Tax title, I left that exactly the same as it was in 20. The additional monies that we receive at the special town meeting has helped generally with all the legal fees that we've been dealing with. So, and just to maybe give you an update on that, we did go to land court, talking about the property at 259 Main Street that we've been dealing with for the last 5 years or so. We've had a few bankruptcy cases, in case people aren't aware, for the property that, because he hasn't paid taxes in a very long time, owes us a lot of money. We actually went to land court February 6th, and he didn't object to our motion to foreclose on the property. So we are waiting for a judgment from the land court at this point. They said it'd take about 4 to 6 weeks. We will foreclose on it, and then we will sell it. So that is coming.
Are there renters in there now?
I'm
There's a
not
new
positive.
for sale sign in front of the house.
Is it for sale? I know there was a
For
for
rent,
rent.
For rent.
But
Yeah.
it seemed like it was on 261, because he does have properties on
I
261.
just wanted to
so-
make sure, because the last thing we want to be doing is evicting somebody.
Well, that's,
Well, there are
that
people
we
in
may
there.
have to,
Yeah.
That's
because
what I'm
that's
saying.
the property. I mean,
Okay.
that's the
But they were all
process
out
that we're
after
gonna
the
have
But
to
last
take.
since, but
Yeah, but
since
they-
I
we're,
think they went back.
we
in.
now have that, can't we tell them, hey,
Some
listen,
did.
we're gonna get this
We
enforced?
don't have a judgment.
No, until we get that
Until we
judgment,
get
and then we're gonna have to
judgment,
go
we
through
can't do
eviction
anything.
process, so
Yeah.
it's another year.
So that's just a little update on that. It's moving, very slowly.
Still closer than you've been.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that's tax title, there's no change basically from last year. Postage I bumped up a little bit because we seem to be mailing out more demands and more tax bills. There are more bills than there have been in the past. I did a $500 increase in basically just postage. And machine and paper, I left the same. Seems to be working. Everybody good? Moving on to debt.
The best part.
So in total, the debt that we'd be, that I'm requesting to pay is $1,206,002.28. That includes excluded debt and non-excluded debt, temporary and long-term. Thank you. There's one highlighted area here that I had budgeted to pay down $82,000 for the Rutland Heights debt. That's excluded debt. As you can see, we did have a drop of about, well, even with bumping up how much we were paying down to Rutland Heights, we'll still have a drop in our debt payments for this year of 2.24%, which is about $27,000. I know there's a solar lease going on, or trying to be put into place with the Rutland Heights property, which could clear up that entire debt. But we are going to have to pay off or permanently finance the Rutland Heights debt in 2023. So the more that we can get off of it, the shorter we'd have to pay it. The balance on it, did I put that somewhere? Is $282,000. So, and in the back, I also did a different way of looking at our long-term debt schedule. It kind of puts the years down, so you can see when debt is falling off. I think it was, and I've highlighted the year, this includes years 2019 to 2042. I've highlighted 2021, so you can see where we're at. And you can see that quite a bit of debt is going to be falling off in the next couple of years.
Amen.
Right.
What's that?
I said amen.
Yeah. We're steadily working our way out of it.
So what happens when the debt, and just, excuse me, because I'm new, but
Yeah.
what happens when the debt gets paid off? What's
So-
the effect?
We buy more
If
stuff.
it's, right, yeah. The goal should be for the town, in my opinion, is to keep a level amount of debt to maintain, improvements to the town and that type of stuff. So you'd want to look at when the debt's falling off and come up with a plan to make improvements to buildings and that type of stuff, to borrow money to level off the debt, so you don't have wild jumps on tax rates, where things go way up, things go way down when the debt falls off. You'd want to keep it at a standard level so that the town can make long-term improvements.
Have we ever seen it go way down?
No, it's where,
I'm just gonna say, I've only seen it
well,
go way up. I don't ever see it go way down.
well, last year, the middle school renovation, well, actually, we debt excluded that
Yeah, we
like 2 or 3
exclude- yeah.
years ago. So
It's
it
like we
was-
take off it's been working because it's the only way we can do it is,
Yeah.
an ambulance comes off, we get another one, that kind of stuff. And-
Right, right.
But if the debt were to be satisfied and we didn't commit to something else,
Yeah.
where would that payment that was being made go? General fund?
If- Yeah,
General
Yeah.
fund revenue.
No,
If
it wouldn't
it's-
show up
if
in the
it's ex-
budget, it would be out of the budget.
No,
Right,
it's
but
in
it'd
the
be in the
general fund.
fund,
Yeah.
the money would.
We'd have
go
revenue in the
into
general, so
fund.
we would, it'd go toward whatever deficit we had that year when we're planning the budget.
Okay. So the 344 could be
Yeah.
impacted by, okay.
yeah.
And that's a decision made where,
Town meeting,
town meeting?
right?
Okay, good.
Is the 82,000 better spent on the hospital debt than on any other debt that we have?
Well, the only thing,
Based on
it's excluded debt.
So
So
that
that,
only goes to
that, that goes directly to, it has a net, it doesn't have a net, how do I wanna say
Yeah,
it?
it doesn't help us.
It's a
It's-
separate,
yeah.
separate number.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
a separate number.
Right.
Yeah.
So it comes in on the revenue side.
yeah.
So that it's basically the people are paying the taxes directly on that amount. So,
So if we were to cut that from the budget, we'd also have to reduce 82,000 from the revenue, because the vote was taken to increase taxes for this purpose.
Just for the
For the
hospital.
Brentwood Hospital,
Right.
yeah.
So, okay.
So,
All right.
But
when
the
the
net effect
debt,
would be nothing, because
Correct.
you don't have it coming in, you don't have it going out.
right.
so when the debt is satisfied, it's no benefit.
Correct.
Only
That
if
would
it's,
be
if
no-
it's debt excluded debt, which I
Okay.
did put on this here, like the last four are debt excluded, 4 or
Okay.
5.
It's like the water sewer, as soon as it gets down to nothing, it should disappear, right on the bill.
Should.
There's always improvements that need to be
Because on this page, well, no, there's other proof, but on this page, it says water enterprise, you said long-term, but this says proposed 5-year plan, but this goes more than 5 years on this.
It's
part.
so the improvements that the
It's-
DPW director was proposing are gonna take 5 years to do, but the debt's it's
Oh, it's a
3.1.
5-year
We've approved $3.1 million
Construction.
to do those improvements
Over
over
30
5
years.
years. It's
Yeah.
gonna take them 5 years to do all these things.
So it's
To
5
build a
years-
building.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fix Inwood Road.
5-year expense.
5 year of construction paid over 30 years.
Got it.
Ah, that water's
20.
costly.
20, thank you.
20 years.
Even better.
Yeah. So I just included the enterprise funds here just for your reference, so you can see where that debt was. That's not on my budget submission, because that comes in through the water and sewer area. And I also included here just like what the balance is of our debt. In the general fund, we have $8,186,953.87 still outstanding in permanently financed debt. For temporary debt, we have $602,710,000. And water and sewer, we have $1.375 million. So, and that's the total that's outstanding. Okay,
No, wait a minute, where'd you read that 1.3?
Next page.
Oh, next page, sorry. No wonder I didn't see it. You stuck it. I wanted to see that. Oh, I see it now. Oh, boy.
there it is.
Turn it back up.
Turn the page if you dare.
Yeah.
I got some scary numbers. So, any questions on debt? We are making improvements on it. It's going down. It's been going down for a number of years, so. The benefits and insurance section, you have the Worcester County retirement assessment, increased 10.38% to $684,053. And we're putting $7,000 into unemployment. We're still building that balance up in case we have unemployment claims. We had one unemployment claim like 3 or 4 years ago that kind of dwindled the balance that we had built up, so we put additional funds into there. Health insurance. We are continuing coverage with Maya, Blue Cross Blue Shield. We switched over to them last year and committed to staying, that involves committing staying with them for this year. We received their average increase, which was 3.7%. We also used them for dental insurance, which we actually received a 1.39% decrease in the premium rates for dental. We have additional, more employees than we had previously, so we are looking at, with the dental insurance, health insurance, and our flexible spending plan, we contribute $150 per employee, and for the year, we have 41 people enrolled in that. So that the net effect is a $92,000 increase over the previous year's budget, which is a 12.4%.
We had a large amount of employees turn 26 this past year.
Oh, off of their parents on to,
Correct.
okay.
So,
We couldn't hold them back?
Still got a year on me, huh?
That's what I liked having it, because he knew he was coming in with benefits.
so this builds in one additional family enrollment, just an extra, extra buffer in there for anybody else who's turning 26. Or, loses insurance with their spouse and need to come on the plan, so it's kind of a contingency there.
Now we need those 26-year-olds to get married and have their wives.
That's right.
We are,
Married?
Could be the other way around.
Yeah.
we are looking at offering the health insurance buyout option, which we did a couple of years ago, where if somebody can go on their spouse's plan effective July 1, we will, if they're on a family plan and they have been for 2 years, we'll pay them a $5,000 stipend to switch over, which will save the town $10,000 for that one person. Because it's about, for a family plan, it's
About
15.
15.
Yeah, it's about 15,000, 16,000. So if we paid them 5, we're saving 10.
Right.
Even if we got one. So the last time we did it, we did have one employee that did it. So hopefully we can see if somebody's able to do that. We're trying anything. How's that? Life insurance, it did increase from last year. We have more people enrolled this year. There's no cost change to the life insurance, and that's, we offer a $10,000 policy for active employees, and the town pays 50% of that. So we just have more people that have enrolled in that. I just wanted to point out, for our flexible spending plan, the town contributes $150 for employees that enroll. We are going to switch to a new carrier this year. Currently, we're using Task, and I've had a lot of administrative issues with them, and their rates just go up 3% every year, regardless, and their customer service was declining rapidly. So we are going to use cafeteria plan advisors, which we did get 3 quotes out there from different companies, and they actually came in and showed us their product.
I've used them. Did you look at Health Equity?
Health Equity, no, that was is that HRC?
No, Health Equity.
Did I-
They get the feed directly from Blue Cross Blue Shield.
To get the fee directly from Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Yeah, we'll talk. I'll send you some information on it.
Okay.
We used cafeteria, then we switched to Health Equity.
Mhm.
They had much better customer service.
Well, I know that cafeteria plan is used when I went to the Mass Treasure Collectors, a listserv. That was the one that most municipalities use.
Sure.
So
Doesn't mean
It
they're
does,
good.
it's,
Doesn't mean they're good.
it's like, well, it's gonna be better than task, I'll tell you that. So-
I'm sure, but
Mhm.
I'm just saying that
Yeah.
that's one that
Yeah,
I
we
know
did-
we switched
we-
and we saved money and got
Right.
better customer
We
service.
used Brian Boyle, from the Boyle Group, who's our health service, like, agent.
Yep.
So he kind of went out and got quotes from us from a company called Basic, HRC, and Cafeteria Plan Advisors. So I was happy with the results we got there, so.
And we give 150 per employee from the town, we give that?
Yeah, and that came into play, actually, it was 100, we bumped it up to 150 because we had increased the co-pays significantly, so
It was a
we,
couple of years ago, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, when we were with Fallon, to reduce the premium increase, we changed the plan to increase co-pays for
Emergency
prescriptions and all that
Yep.
good stuff, so we bumped up what we contributed to each employee's plan to 150.
Can you be on the FSA without being on the health insurance?
Yes,
So even if you're not on the health insurance, they get the extra $150?
if they contribute 150, they have to
Right.
match it, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Can I ask a couple little questions about that? How do we stack up with other towns as far as benefits, pay, et cetera?
You're not asking a metric question.
Kind of, sorry, I know.
No,
I'm
no.
stealing your thunder.
I'm looking at this and saying, how the hell do you do metrics on this stuff? There's so much
I mean,
data.
are we comparable? Obviously, we want to get good people, but we want to make sure we're paying them enough, but not overpaying
Yeah,
benefits,
I
et cetera.
can't answer the pay side of things, you know what I mean? I think our support staff is underpaid.
Because they get
Definitely.
cut every year.
Yeah.
The school
exactly.
comes in,
Our- on-
and the first thing that goes is
Yeah.
the 2%,
Our
the
sup-
COLAs for the non. Yep, I
And
agree.
our support staff is definitely underpaid.
And so as far as you know, I mean, I'm assuming somebody looks into this once in a while, that as far as benefits, health, dental, life, all of that, that we're,
We pay 75-25 for the split. A lot of places are 70-30. So we are decent in that area where we are a lot more tractable than other areas is our retiree health insurance. The split is still 75-25. A lot of places are 50-50.
and do you think this is helping us keep people? Is that a part of the logic?
I mean, if, on the retiree side, I don't think so because they've already retired.
They're not going anywhere, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So why are we doing that then? Why are we paying more than anybody
The
else?
town voted it.
So how do we change that? If it's not something that's doing
I
us
don't
any
want-
direct benefits?
We wouldn't be able to change it for anyone who's currently a retiree. If we were to change anything, it would be from here
Future.
on out in the future. Everyone else would be grandfathered in.
Right.
So it's not subject to change. It is what it is. And if the budget has to come down, that's untouchable.
Yeah.
The retirees.
The retirement.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
exist.
For current,
right.
but not for future,
No,
if
no, I
we
understand,
decided
but
to
for-
change, right?
Right.
You know,
And
But it
if-
is something
if
for
the-
an employee to look forward to, too. I mean, that's a plus for them to
Good
stay,
point,
so.
good point, good point.
If the 75-25 split is written into all the union contracts as well. So if you were to, if we got desperate and we were looking at changing that, that would be open all the
Gotcha.
negotiations with the
Again, that wouldn't
unions.
change for this year's budget, that
Well,
would be for
no.
future year's budget.
Not for the retirees, yes.
Right.
For the employees, I can set the budget so it's 70-30. I just have to go and reopen and negotiate all the contracts we
right.
negotiated last year.
Which is,
Right.
costs more than
Yeah.
what we would save. Another employee question, hate to bring this up, but for coronavirus, as far as upcoming over the next few months, travel, meetings, local or, certainly other places, are we set to deal with, I know this maybe isn't fully money, but it kind of is, are we
So that's
set for that?
my department who's overseeing that. We had 2 DPW employees who were in charge of cleaning all of our buildings. One is currently away, so we reassigned 2 additional staff members to that, so we have 3 staff going around. Our buildings are being cleaned every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, with a bleach solution that they're preparing to wipe down all of the surfaces, with high priority being given to this building and the community center, because they see the most foot traffic, followed by the community hall main building and then the annex. Public safety building gets cleaned after that, but since most of the building, you have to have a fob to get anywhere in the building, that's cleaned last. It's the ones that see the public first that we post.
Okay, I just was curious how that was.
Yeah.
I have just one last little question, sorry. The very first item that you talked about was raising 37 hours to 40 hours for your assistant, I think. And you talked about the secretary, which we're really not too sure how that's going to pan out. Being as we're on that cusp of going to 10,000 people in town, is that something that we, especially since you've set aside money for secretaries, that's something that we really want to do right away? Anybody can.
What do you mean you want to do?
Becky would love to have
I
somebody.
mean, if we're going to go from the 37 to 40 hours, is now a time to do that, or should we be waiting until our, a reason
Are you,
other than being overworked?
so are you talking about the assistant's position?
assistant's
Or are
position.
you talking about the secretary?
No, I'm talking about the assistant's
Okay,
position.
so you're trying to, the 2.5 hours is what you're asking,
Yes, 3, whatever.
3 hours.
I personally think the workload justifies the increase.
So it doesn't really have anything to do with the fact
No.
of people. Okay, just asking.
But again, that's where metrics
Yeah.
will come into play, justify.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the last piece on there was the Medicare. I have consistently try to estimate what I need based on the salaries, and I have been consistently low. So I bumped it up 11 point. I did a 10% increase plus additional salaries.
This
So-
is what the town pays for Medicare.
Yeah, so we match,
Their
like,
contribution.
every employee pays 1.45%, the
Right.
town matches.
Okay. And you're required by law to do that, right?
Yeah.
So, this isn't a request, this is what you have to do.
Right,
Yeah.
right, and where I keep struggling is, I look at what we did last year, and I was short last year, and then,
Right.
so then this year I tried, and then.
Plus, you don't know what
because-
people are getting for raises.
Exactly, so it's based on their salary, so if their salaries go up, or we have new hires, or people come, then people go, and we have more people or less people, I've just had a hard time pinning it down, so it hasn't, I mean, it's been only short, maybe a couple thousand that we've kind of
I think the
just
most was
done.
$3,000 in the
Yeah.
last 5 years, I think was the most that it's ever
Yeah.
been,
So,
which is a
So-
pretty good guess.
In the highway department, they have no problems deficit spending on snow removal. Maybe it should be deficit spending here.
That's,
can't do it. I can't do it. Then
That's not part of the law.
DPW's the only one who can do that.
It's an idea.
While Becky's here, it might be worth doing her.
I was gonna
Yeah.
suggest that we bring that up next, before we move on. So I wanna do the reserve transfer. I'm gonna skip ahead just for a second and just try to get the reserve transfer done while Becky's here, so we can ask questions and then we can let her go. So I need a motion on the reserve transfer.
I move that we discuss the $1,000 reserve fund transfer for the treasurer.
Second.
So we have a motion to discuss the transfer and a second. All right,
So Becky, on that, it says it's for additional cost for the W-2s. That's not the case.
Okay,
Because as I look here, the W-2s were $786 in 2020, and they were $617. So they went up a bit, but
Yeah.
there's other costs that are involved in that
okay,
$1,000.
so it was for the see if you look there,
Yep.
the average cost per pay in FY '20 actually was 187 too, if you look
Okay.
at all of that stuff.
But this isn't
Okay.
just for the W-2s. This is
Okay,
for payroll
sorry.
processing,
Yeah, and
Okay.
also the ACA forms,
right? Because those
And
went up a
those-
little bit too.
right, the rate, The cost per W-2 went from $2.50 to $3.
Mhm.
There were additional W-2s.
Yep.
And there were additional ACA forms.
But it's also payroll processing increase.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was the reason why, because when it said on the form, it says that it's just for W-2s. And that was the
Okay.
reason why I was like, there's no way. Increase in payroll services, I can understand that.
I should have attached the actual invoice.
Yeah.
So I apologize for that.
And we've budgeted appropriately for next year?
Yes.
That's the question I'm always gonna ask.
All right, any other discussion? So now I need a motion to.
Motion to approve the request as presented.
Second. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Anything
next time
else?
we just need to get a little more on the,
Yep.
okay,
Perfect. Just sign it.
yeah. Maybe.
Am I good?
Yep.
You're good.
Good to go.
All right, let's keep moving. Let's get our town clerk.
Hello. I guess we have three different budgets, but before I start, I really want to reiterate what Becky said about the non-union and mostly the support staff and eliminating a COLA increase. It would be a real travesty if that happened. And like she said, some of our support staff are basically the backbone of our offices, and they're all great. They'll do anything for the town, so hopefully that won't be one of the cuts that has to happen.
As I recall hearing from Monday, what is it, we're at 360 something?
Yeah,
So,
I know. But just to,
no,
just to say
we
that.
don't do it lightly. We don't do it lightly, but unfortunately,
And,
we haven't found a way to print our own money yet.
and they haven't figured
You
out
need all
that
three
they,
of them.
I don't think, maybe they should form a union, so. But anyway,
Yeah.
with that. I guess I might as well go in order, because I think the town clerk's is the first one. And in the 5110 account, that shows, it's actually a step increase to MTP 5, step 3, and it also includes a $912 increase that was a shortage from last year. I guess it was a budgeting or accounting
I
error
will
for a step increase.
Take the hit on that one when we made the budget last year. Anita got a step, and then after town meeting was passed, I realized that traditionally how those COLAs have gone with this town in the past was the matrix itself was bumped by 2% rather than the dollar amount. So that is where that came from. I gave her the
It's basically half
the
a
old
step.
one. Yeah, I gave her the
rather
old
than the
step rather
step.
than the new one.
So the step that you're requesting is per your contract?
Well,
She's elected.
I'm
Oh, that's right.
elected, so I don't have a
Okay, so
contract.
that's something that you just asked, okay,
Yep,
that's,
that's
sorry, I forgot,
just-
yep.
Just did, but in lieu of a contract.
Yep.
The next line item is the assistant wage account, the 5120, and the increase there actually is also a step increase. I didn't include a COLA for that, but I included a full step from OAD Fort, step 1 to step 2, which is basically, I think, a 90%, 90 cent per hour increase that would result in $1,310.40 annually. But the other thing that I requested is a move from 28 hours to 36 and a half hours for the assistant town clerk position. And our office is in a position a lot like the treasurer collector's office. We can't be closed. We're open to the public 36 and a half hours a week. That's more than any other office in community. Maybe the DPW might be opened a little longer than that because they started earlier. But it's when I was full-time, for those who don't know, I was full-time assistant town clerk, and up until 2014. And at that point, when the town clerk retired, she was basically a part-time town clerk, but she was in the office. So when I took a vacation, she was in the office, even though she had treasurer-collector duties too. And now we're in a position that when I have vacation, I haven't taken a sick, I've got a lot of sick and sick time, but anyway. But when I'm out, my assistant basically has to cover those hours. And so it's a balancing act, and you don't want an you want their biweekly pay to stay constant, and so you can't ask them to cover and then say, oh, don't come in for the next few days. So part of it is that, one, we have a very, very efficient, valuable assistant town clerk, and I looked back to see the duties in our office have increased a lot. I looked back to when I started in 2014 to just basically today, and there are almost 600 new residents in town in that time span. And ironically, there was 700 additional registered voters. And I think that's, when I first saw that, I said, that looks weird, but that's what I ran off the state computer. And I think that's because this is a presidential year, so we've seen a real increase in voter registration, whereas 2014 was a mid-cycle.
Yeah.
So that might explain that. But with that increased population, it increases foot traffic in our office. It increases more dogs to license. It increases requests for vital records, things like that. So with every resident, there's more workload. And to keep going on that, our office does all the postings to the website. IT isn't involved at all. That's, we have a nice new website, and there's a lot that we'd like to be doing, but we just don't have the time to do it. And I don't know if, probably most of you don't realize, but we also issue street numbers.
I know that.
Yes, you do. Thank you, Dave. Haven't seen you in for a while. We're trying to, although our bylaws say that the planning board issues them, so we're trying to
Push it back on them.
I tried. And so in the bylaws subcommittee, we are looking to kind of like, I don't know, codify that, but just so that the town clerk has the authority to do that, and we'd like to do it with like a sign off so that the fire chief, because Tommy always did it with Sally, that the fire chief and the assessor's office signs off on the numbers. But the numbering is getting more and more complex. It's not easy with estate lots and common driveways, and so that's taking a lot more
I don't think it
time.
will be a problem.
Planning board approves the lots,
Yeah.
they create the problem. So
Exactly.
They do.
And they should do the numbering.
they make the rules, we just abide by them.
I really did try that, especially when we got a town planner, and then I tried to give it totally to the fire chief, and that didn't go well either, so, but.
I think you do a great job at it.
Thank you, yes.
My mail comes to me,
I know, you don't care.
I got the right number.
The current fire chief would like us to renumber the whole town, but I would never go there. My predecessor couldn't do that. That's a good way to make enemies, but,
I have a quick question on that. I haven't been around that long, so, but if that's a planning board and it's denoted in the paperwork that's, we're all giggling, but hello, why is that then we're paying your office, which is already short-staffed, especially if you start taking some sick time, why is it that we're giggling about that and not saying, hey, sorry,
We
it's
shouldn't.
planning. We have a planner,
Well,
like
now
you
that we have
said,
a
too.
planner, before-
We're paying a planner.
Before it was hard because there wasn't anybody there.
No,
It
nobody
And
took
they're only met
forever.
every other week,
Right.
and that could be
So
difficult.
how do we,
Well, that's what, I just wanted to say
how does
that.
Mike make that
Before, it used to
happen?
be, nobody was really keeping track of the
Right.
numbers or really
Right.
doing them right, so one of the town clerks started doing it, and we just started working together to keep.
And it does
track.
create quite an
We
issue
wanna
for the
know
fire
where we're
department,
going.
you know, you have a frontage
Sure.
on this land and the driveways in that land, but you know, the fire department doesn't know, you know, everyone jokes around, you know, you go to the house that's on fire is the one that called, well, it's not always a fire, it's a heart attack or something, so they can't find
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
you know?
So isn't that charter?
That would help.
The charter would say who does what where
Yep.
and when.
Oh, if we had a,
If we had a town charter.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
well,
we're in
we're
the
also
process
working of the bylaws,
Right.
right.
Yeah, the bylaws.
Part of it, well,
I thought you were about chat cable.
it does help to have somebody that knows the town, because it
It's
makes
on
it
that
a lot
telephone
easier.
bill, isn't it?
So, because I heard years ago, they gave it back to the planning board, a town clerk gave it back to the planning board, and it didn't go well, so. That's
So how does that
probably
start though? I mean, how does it go from one spot to another? Somebody just say, I don't wanna do it
I think it
anymore?
was
Yeah.
that's just what happened.
Well, once
you know,
upon a time, the planning board only met twice a
Right.
month, and there wasn't somebody in the office. Now we have David, so David's there in the office, so it would be
Well, you gotta make an
easier.
appointment, you can't walk in, I've tried.
But anyway, we're getting.
That's a different story.
Kind of off of that, but, you know, if with increased hours, but the numbering is minor, but it's just a point. And you've heard me say the new public records law and the records request is an increased demand on our time. But the biggest impact is early voting is really getting us. They, you know, it was
Funded
original.
mandate.
And we do get a little bit of reimbursement, but not a lot.
Not anything to make it worthwhile.
No, not at all. But voters love it. It's not going away, you know.
How many did we have for this recent early voting?
It was relatively low. I think it was 326 or 7, but
More than I would have thought.
But you,
Yeah.
but like,
But you
I
have to
bet
be
you if you
open
had it
still.
the last, because,
almost
you know,
1,500.
you only have really Democratic,
Right.
you know, so that's,
Right.
if you have both sides going, you're gonna have
Right.
a lot more people.
in November of 2016, which was the first time we had it, we had well over, close to 1,500.
Yeah.
And I anticipate more this time.
This time,
And
yeah.
that's a 2-week time span. The primary is only one. They haven't passed a law yet for the September primary, but I'm anticipating that, and that'll be low attendance. But it's still, we have to staff, we have to set up. And so just, in the 2 weeks leading up to the March primary, Damien the budget line item is for 28 hours a week, so, but in the 2 weeks leading up to the March primary, she did an additional 15 hours each week. And then the week of the election, we basically have like an 11-hour day setting up for the election the day before, and then the election can be a 15 to 16-hour workday. So she probably had finished her hours by 9 o'clock on the Wednesday morning, you know, and in reality, she just has to it. And so that was another 19 hours and 19 and a quarter hours. So it was basically close to 50 hours over 3 weeks because of elections, getting everyone registered, early voting. And I paid her out of the election budget. But that's why I think if we move things to and increase the hours for an assistant town clerk, it really gives a more realistic budget picture of what the assistant town clerk, you know, has to do in those during those times. But anyway,
Ian, can I ask a question while we're on elections? Being as there's probably a lot of people in town who are very interested in this, is there any way, or is it more difficult, more hours, if you were to train or have volunteers? Put out the word for volunteers. I mean, this doesn't happen every year.
you mean we do
To help process the ballots or all the things that you do?
Well, it's
Or is it more trouble
hands-on.
than it's worth?
It's more hands-on. I mean, we have
Okay.
people that that election workers that help us,
During the day of the
you know,
election.
are there, you know,
Right.
and we basically have to have two there, because we can't really leave one person. We tried to do it in our office, but the traffic is, you know, the flow is just not good, so we set up downstairs in town hall.
Okay, just curious, it
Yeah.
sounds like it would
I mean,
not
we do-
help us financially.
We do use senior workers that help us, like, count the ballots, because every ballot has to be counted before it goes to the polls. It's just, elections are really, really time consuming, but,
And the state gives us no money.
huh?
They don't give us any money.
No.
They just tell us what to do.
So, but basically, that's why the increase in Damien's hours. I would hate to lose an excellent assistant town clerk, because somebody might be looking for more hours. And there are so many things, I mean, we get done what needs to be done, you know, but there are so many projects that we just don't have time to get to, so things like that would definitely allow that. Moving on, the next line item is for my certification. I have a CMMC after my name, and the next line item is purchase services. A good portion of that goes to our dog program and the dog tags, things like that. There's no increase in that line item or supplies, and there's a slight $400 increase in the 5,700 account, which basically we use that for conferences. And there's 3 main ones a year with really beneficial classes, so both Damien and I have been going to those. So any more questions on the town clerk one?
Nope.
And then elections are up, and there are increases there, and it's basically because next fiscal year, there are 3 elections and early voting, so that's the increase in wages. And the purchase services are like the coding. We have to code our handicap machine, we have to code our voting machines, and we have to purchase, we pay for the ballots for the annual election, but the state supplies the ballots for the others, but we still have to do all the coding. And there's no change in the supply account. And then there's no change in the registrar's account over last year.
What does the registrar do? I figured I'd ask the question, because I'm sure
That
I'm
nobody
not the
does.
only one.
And sometimes I think that in the future, we might want to combine the registrar with, but basically, the registrar registers voters, we send out the census, that's the hat we wear. But I was at a conference with Lauren Goldberg from KP Law, and she did a class on, she said that basically the Board of Registrars is an example of how the law hasn't kept up with the times.
Right.
So that's that. So, any more questions?
Nope. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm quicker than Becky. She does, and she can have those numbers.
While we have Anita here, just because the question was asked when Becky was here, we've gotten some questions about how the coronavirus could potentially affect elections. We've been notified by the Secretary of State that the only authority to cancel or postpone an election or a town meeting requirement is a court.
Well,
Well,
town
except
meeting.
town meeting's separate, it's a
It's
moderated.
elections, it would be a court.
Yeah.
The court order. Elections is looking into it, they're looking into all kinds of contingencies. One of the emails that I received actually mentioned electronic ballots, which I think would basically mean that we were accepting ballots by email. Hopefully, we never get there. We do have electronic ballots for overseas and uniform voters. We process 2 this year. We send them a file electronically. They vote and send it back. But hopefully, that won't come to that. But town meeting, we have to keep proceeding. We have to send out the warrant. But there are, I think it's chapter 39, section 10-something.
Sure.
Sure, absolutely, yes.
sounds right.
Basically, once a town meeting is called, the moderator, because of public health concerns or weather, can actually postpone that date to a time certain, I think is what it says.
But
But
our
we are
risk
getting,
right now is just for the next town meeting,
right,
this-
right.
because the next one after that is in the fall, right?
Don't we
Right, not
usually
just-
have a certain date we have to have the meeting by?
Well, June 30th. the
Yeah,
budget
so I
needs to
mean,
be-
you can't postpone it much anyway, right?
Right.
I mean,
So,
Oakham and Hubbardston don't have theirs till the last week of June.
Anyway. no.
We
But there
We
is,
don't follow the law, I guess.
yeah. No,
Well,
you
no,
can- as
June
long as
30th.
you
Oh,
pass it,
June,
June,
oh, yeah,
June 30th.
June.
There are some towns that are scrambling now because they have end of March for
Yeah.
town meetings
Yeah.
and elections, and so there's a major concern there.
Or
so-
later, so that's.
Yeah, we're
useful.
probably gonna be
And-
up
hopefully.
in.
And just a plug, nomination papers are still available. We have a couple of seats that no one's taken out papers for, and they need
Really?
to be back.
I'm all set.
When does
I'm good.
automatic registration
We
start?
can.
Oh, automatic voter registration started in January.
Yeah.
And that's something through the registry. When you used to be able to go to the registry and check a box saying you wanted to register and change your party. You can no longer change your party, but unless you opt out, you are automatically become a registered voter. We've already, since January, we've had 2 people that were not happy to be sent that letter that they were a registered voter. They didn't realize that
Why would it, really?
some people don't.
So-
We'll just don't vote.
But,
The,
but it's
Well, you don't- doesn't
additional
mean you
They
have
don't
to
want to be
vote.
told what to do.
It's additional
Yeah,
work
but you
for
don't
our
have to
office.
vote, you just
Oh,
register.
sure.
Yeah, everything they pass, so.
Yeah, so now, this is just again because it's extra work for the clerk's office. There are certain municipalities, Cambridge, and most of them are out east around Cambridge, that allow in town elections people 16 and older to vote. So that's how they're able to say when you get a license, even though you're 16, and you're not going to be able to vote in most elections until you're 18, you're registered to vote when you get your license, even though you're 2 years out. So I think there's 3 total that allow voting at 16, but where there's some, they can take it all. So the rest just wait until they're 18 to be eligible.
What we do have is a long list. I think we have over 100 on the same queue that we get from the registry. And when a 15-year-old goes to the registry and applies for a learner's permit, they can register to vote there. We process the queue. Like I said, I think we have well over 100 on it right now. And when we go into our system in the morning, we know every morning we can tell. We get a list of whoever's been at the registry in Rutland. But anyway, and so all these pre-registrants, it'll pop up that they're ready, and
So
we
it's just
print
more
the
work.
acknowledgement. It is. We write happy birthday and send it out. But the problem is the ones that they've moved in the 2 years since.
Right.
So so every new law they pass creates more work. But thank
So they
you.
automatically,
you.
they
Thank
automatically
you.
register as soon as they're automatically registered to vote.
Correct.
They're just independent, I mean, they don't pick.
At the registry now with the automatic, they come
Yeah.
through as unenrolled.
Yeah.
And so to change now, you have to change it in our office.
Gotcha.
Or online. We encourage online.
Thank you, Nita.
Thanks, Anita.
Thank you. Cable. Mr. Mattson,
Yes.
you're up.
Take one down, pass it to Carol, so take one and then,
Just one?
just one.
Oh, but stapled, so it's really more than one.
Yes.
That's for him.
There you go. Yes, sir.
Okay, in a nutshell, what we have here is basic 4 pages. The first page will give you what we had at the end of fiscal year 19, what we spent year to date, and what our PEG access grant was for the year 2018. So as of today, we are looking at about $822,354.77. Proposed expenses for 2021, we're looking to spend around $110,000. Proposed major products are adding cameras to this room here, so we won't have to use this type of a situation anymore. We'll have cameras mounted as we do in the selectmen's area, okay? And then we are looking at the possible TriCaster replacement, which is the brains behind the whole system over in the control area. And the issue that requires it to be replaced, in our opinion right now, and we're investigating this still, is the fact that it is Windows 7, not upgradable to Windows 10. So we are kind of between a rock and a hard place right now, and we're still trying to figure out just exactly where this is all going to go. Okay, so the second page of this gives you a better idea of what exactly would we spend money on and what we're looking at as far as our $110,000 proposal is for this year. And it includes money for the library, insurance, electricity paid to the town, that sort of thing. Salaries, we're gonna replace 2 laptops. One of our laptops is not upgradable to Windows 10. And again, we'll go through the Calkins room, the cameras, the mics, the installations, and everything else. The second recording server, actually, this is a bit of a projection probably right now. We're looking at saying, well, if we're going to continue to record meetings and save these meetings and this sort of thing, we might be thinking seriously about a second recording server to handle the bulk of what we do. And the last item, or next to last item, TriCaster replacement, $20,000 is right now our best guess. Incidentals, $10,000. Well, incidentals for us usually include something like software advances, software upgrades, or something like that for various types of equipment, cameras and whatnot. So it's not spending $500 for paper or ribbons or something like that. Our costs are a little bit more when we come to incidentals.
Before you move on, I just want to make sure that we clarify for everybody, this money doesn't come out of the general fund. You get this from Charter Cable, correct?
That's
or
correct.
Spectrum. So this money is money that you get from Charter. It
Right.
does not come out of the taxpayers.
We
Right.
cannot touch it.
I know, I just want to make sure.
No, I was doing the
Well,
same.
absolutely.
So,
Okay.
I just have a question on the recording server. You're retaining more meetings, more recordings, right? That
Yeah.
would be the idea. So is it a server or is it a storage farm? Is
It's
it
a server.
It's a server.
Yeah.
Would you be better served by having more storage capacity?
If I may interrupt,
Sure.
the problem is, we have 3 rooms in this building, and we can record 1 meeting on our system right now.
Okay.
Right.
In order to record a second meeting, we need to bring these cameras around, wherever we go.
Okay.
This server would allow us to record multiple streams simultaneously. So we have plenty of disk space. We don't need more RAID farms, we don't need any of that.
Okay.
We just need a way to get more concurrent streams into the system so that we can manage concurrent meetings.
So is there, with the second server, would that give you the capacity to do everything that you need to be able to do? I mean, are you going to have 3 meetings running at one time that you need to be able to record?
Yes, we should be able, yes.
Yeah.
It will do everything in this building, and depending upon which model, it actually could do 1 remote as well.
Do we do any recordings other than this building?
Yes.
Where?
We've
The
done them
annex.
in the annex, we've done them in the bottom of the basement of the community hall.
Okay.
Library, the schools, every town meeting that we record. We haven't been able to put them onto this for other reasons, but,
Okay. Okay, thank you.
well,
Okay, the third page is how charter determines what, what our annual PEG access grant is. And it just kind of gives you a little bit of a rundown of what their finances were for the year 2018, what they consider to be coming down to a bottom line in their total revenue and all. This all includes just the town of Rutland, all right? This is no other outside areas other than the town of Rutland. So the total revenue from the town of Rutland for 2018, $2,689,621.14. 3% of that is what we negotiated in a contract in, pardon me, in 2013. Okay, our next contract will be coming up for negotiation in 2022. At this point in time, the FCC is saying that they're going to put a ceiling on this of 3%, which is what we are at now. Now, there are towns and cities who get more than the 3%. They're the ones that are going to be looking at something different. So I would probably be safe to say I'm anticipating that they're going to want to restructure our 3% as well. Okay? To what, I don't know yet. There have been no leakage or any thoughts of anything yet. We have been working with Senator Markey's office on this project, and we have done pretty well as far as getting inroads to FCC thoughts and what their plans are and this sort of thing. However, being an election year, things are not going as fast as we'd like, but at any rate,
No
that's where we
surprise.
stand right now.
And that was one of the conversations I had when I was down in DC last year too.
Right, that's right. And the fourth page is just a copy of the Department of Revenue, PEG access and cable-related fund rulings. This just explains to the people who may have not been aware of what the town funding consists of. It is what we get from charter is what our money is, period. There is no other funding from the town that comes to us at all. Okay, so it's just laid out this way, and that's been so far the best way that we've been able to deal with things. In 2013, we were looking at moving from Campbell Street to someplace, and we went through quite a stretch of time getting things organized and getting people together and this sort of thing to wind up with space here in the library. And so we have now come to this point, and we are continuing now to grow and continuing to expand our capabilities. What we found out since we started here is that what we did here to begin with fit with what we had to begin with. Now we've advanced beyond that stage. Excuse me, but boy, I don't know, somebody's very interested in me tonight. Anyways.
they're thrilled with seeing you on Channel 192, Paul.
So at any rate, as far as these things are concerned right now, I believe that's probably pretty much, in a nutshell, where we are at and what we've got.
So the town doesn't see any of this?
Correct.
No.
When we go through the town meeting with all the dollars and everything that floats around, none of this is really
Us.
relevant to that meeting.
It's
Correct.
in the town's general fund as
No, we
such,
can't touch it.
okay?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
it's in
as
our
in-
bank account, we
right,
just
as
cannot touch
income.
it. Yes.
Right.
But it's, okay. Right.
So, you know,
Yeah, but it should be on the budget, it should be listed in there as a department, and it should show that That's their budget, and that's offset by the revenues coming in from where they get the money, so people have a full picture, which is one thing that we haven't had it for a few years, but I think it should be there. And one of my contentions last year, this is town money. This money is negotiated, it belongs to the taxpayers of Rutland, and this is part of what we have to look at, part of what we should be doing.
Don't disagree with that.
Right, no, I'm just saying.
The only thing is that if we did not have the cable company and we didn't have Paul and the rest of the cable advisory committee, we would not get this money.
Correct, absolutely correct. No
That's the
doubt
thing.
about that.
Yep.
No doubt
Basically,
about
it's,
that.
the fourth page tells you
Right,
what we can do, what we can't
exactly
do.
what it is.
All right.
So I have a question. I'm assuming, you say library gift, that's for like your space rental, basically? Is there any reason why that can't be upped a little bit so that, to kind of help them out a little bit more?
There've been, we've left open discussion with them. We have not been approached on anything, okay? If they wanna come talk to us a little bit more about this, you know, $1,000 a month, is, you know, what was agreed upon
Okay.
when we put this together, and it was done with the understanding that if, you know, they were wanting to come and talk to us about further upgrading their monthly sum, well, you know, they
Okay.
can come and talk to the committee.
And then the insurance, electricity, is that, again, another one that goes towards what their bills are? Is that how that happens?
Yeah, it's.
You don't have a separate meter or a separate,
I'm sorry?
you don't have you're not metered separately for your electricity use.
We have a separate meter, but when it's not anymore, in other words, at one point in time, we took meter readings every month and we gave them to Kerry, and Kerry ran them through an algorithm that she created or had created for her or whatever, and came up with a figure, okay? And that figure was passed over. As time went on, the realization came down that, okay, this figure is pretty much the same, okay? And so, at that point in time, town administrator at that time, Margaret, said, why don't we just agree on this figure, and
Okay.
this percentage, whatever it was.
But that number goes to the library to pay yeah.
I don't know if it goes to the
Well-
library, it goes to the general fund.
Right.
The 2,000?
Right,
The 2,000 goes to the general fund.
Okay.
Correct.
The 1,000 goes to the library gift account.
So, okay.
right.
All right.
So in other words, you know, the library per se gets that plus their $1,000 a month. Okay, so they get their insurance and so on and so forth.
Other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Be nice to have the cameras in here.
I'm sorry?
It would be
It'll be
good to
nice
have
when
the
they-
cameras in here.
Oh, yeah.
All right,
Spin.
Right.
Conservation Commission.
I don't see that.
Good evening, everyone.
Huh?
Good evening.
They're on the full sheet because they're level funded from last year. There was nothing new.
Do we have a different sheet on that?
All right, I was going to say, I apologize for not bringing anything. We are absolutely level funded from last year.
Okay, done.
Good night.
How much do you have in your, how much do you have in your
No,
revolving
no.
fund?
You gotta have more questions.
Hold on.
No Matrix?
I
No
have not
metrics?
checked
No metrics.
on that in a while, but you might assume you mean the Wetlands Protection Act fund?
Whatever revolving
this
fund
big
that you
sheet.
I'm
have,
not sure.
everyone see.
I'm not sure that's a revolving fund, but
It's a fund that you get to use.
it's a fund. That's
You
right.
get to use it,
That-
it's a fund
that in fact we do use.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Go back into
I
it.
haven't asked the last time. I'm going to guess around $94,000.
Oh, yeah.
The budget is, again, level funded from last year at $1,050. Of that, $450 is purchase services, $100 supplies, and other charges, $500.
Right, there was a small, there was an increase to the professional service, professional organization fees that we pay, but we're just gonna absorb that, we're not gonna pass that on. Everything else will be as it is.
So the $500 for other, what does that cover?
I
Is-
don't,
Is that the professional fees, or is that purchase services?
Well, that's
Those are
the,
trainings.
right, that's, so they're related to professional services and that we have to pay for training to keep up on it, so that's what that comes out of most of the time.
On the other charges?
Yes.
And then what's purchase services?
That is the,
Our email address,
Yes.
our, I forget what else comes out of that, quite
So
honestly.
that's your Conservation Commission email address that you use for Viewpoint.
Yep,
Tamika's email address, because that's where you originally started, so your Tamika's at townofrutland.org comes out of there. That's, and the certification fees.
right. So the professional service fee, the fees to the Massachusetts Conservation Commission, MACC, the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissioners, comes out of that one, but the trainings that we do come out of the other one.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so the secretary wages that got zeroed out, I think last, that comes out of that.
That comes out of the magic fund, that's right, the Protection Act fund.
Right, so I guess just wanna make the point again, somehow we should see that in here, that the secretary wages are X, but it's not part of the budget, but it's part of the town's payments, but it's funded by.
It's funded from a different source, sure.
Correct.
just so the people could
Well,
see
so
it, right?
and we can see the whole picture too,
Yeah.
but everybody can see the whole picture.
It would be beneficial to line up expenses and where they're coming from. Excuse me.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you.
Is anyone interested in the future? That's to say, things that will happen beyond this upcoming fiscal year.
With conservation, yes.
The future with the coronavirus?
Well, no,
Oh, God.
that'll only
Yes.
be a few months.
Yeah, hopefully everybody's
Um,
around still.
During the last cycle of appointments for Concom, the chair of the select board made it very clear that she wants us to look at getting a conservation agent for that town.
Full-time?
I can only assume that's, or even to share it with other towns. She did not have a particular plan to my knowledge. She wanted us to look at it, and we've, I just want to say, I don't know that we're going to or when we're going to, but if a recent salary survey says that the average conservation agent in Massachusetts is paid around $57,000 a year. So it's just not gonna affect us this year.
Well,
No,
I have a
but
question.
Go ahead, Tom.
So, is that's one person has asked you?
Yes.
I mean, has the board voted to ask you that question?
No.
Well, then,
What,
It's not a
no,
question.
the select board made it very clear that we are
Just something to
expected
keep-
to consider that,
Yeah, they all
For the
kind of
Concom.
agreed at their
their offsite.
retreat
Retreat.
meeting that they had at the beginning of the year when they were setting their goals for the next 5 years. One of them was to see a conservation agent hired.
But that hasn't come before.
oh, that's a goal.
It's just one of their goals.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
how
we have
much,
nothing
I haven't been in
to
the
do.
conservation in a while, how many, do you guys have a lot going on in town, conservation-wise?
No, we
It-
just put houses wherever they
It,
want.
it comes and it goes, frankly.
You be quiet, I'm talking to him.
It's okay, you can talk.
That's okay, we're on the take anyway.
Not from me.
Oh, don't think I don't know that. The work ebbs and flows. We, in fact, have been spending some time thinking about what we would have a conservation agent do and what would enable.
So I'm just saying, is there enough work for a full-time agent?
For a full-time, we have a hard time coming up with one for this town alone, although the possibility would be to have a regional
I mean-
resource.
Now that the town has, cut building permits, there'd be even less desire for work, honestly, less development, so.
Could be, but the benefit to having a conservation agent is that we have somebody in town, effectively full-time, who can actually more actively monitor all the construction, which we, quite frankly, we don't actively monitor until somebody complains to us.
Sure.
And so some of those responsibilities could
That would be on there, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
About 57,000 plus benefits.
Yeah, that's right.
It's never just 57, it's plus
Oh,
benefits.
of course, yes,
Pay
you're
the first
exactly
year
correct.
out of
It's
the-
never just
We
that.
pay the first year out of the magic fund?
But if it was a regional too, you're gonna get the percentage or
We would get
whatever
it,
that.
that's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we could pay for it for
We're still
time out of the fund.
But still, we have to
Then
figure out
it
what's going on.
doesn't
There's a lot of
keep,
questions.
that fund doesn't get replenished, it's money that's been donated over the years. Some of
Yeah.
it gets replenished, but I mean, the amount is.
Yeah, every time we get a fee from somebody, it goes into that fund, but not everything gets fees, and the fees aren't huge.
No.
We are looking at all our fees in town, so.
These fees are set by the state, we have no impact on them.
Easy.
Okay.
The
I
objective
keep
now.
saying, you guys with your fees.
All right, thank you
All
very
right,
much.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any old business?
That's the cable budget.
He does.
Any other
Oh, that
business?
was, I see how that lines up.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion accepted and.